Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My friend Myron Ruffin is here to talk to us a little bit about his business. Myron Ruffin is a music broker, an agent, and a promoter. He's started a business called Unlimited Wealth Entertainment, and Myron has worked with Grammy recording artists, including Anthony David and Dwele. Myron works with a lot of artists who create soul music, and he's promoted concerts and events across the United States, including Louisiana, Atlanta, and Ohio. Thank you for coming to be with us today, Myron.
Thank you, Joel, and once again, congratulations on being in this position.
Oh, thanks a lot. I'm learning a lot about politics, and I'm actually learning a lot about myself because, I always know what my position is, but I haven't always had to explain what that means. So,
Right.
I'm proud to be able to stand up for the people of Ohio right now. So
That's great stuff.
Myron, you're one of the coolest people I know. How did you get involved in music?
In college, I went to Oberlin College, and probably around the year 1991, I had a classmate who wanted to get out of producing a dance ensemble and a musical ensemble on campus because she was in the sciences. It got kind of difficult and demanding on her schedule. And so she asked me to come and work under her and learn production cues. I mean, I was a football player, and I was like, okay, I need something else to do in my time after season's over with besides hit the book. So it became interesting to me, and I learned light cues, I learned production, I learned everything there was to know about putting on an entire production from front to back, and that's what it all started as far as the production aspect concerned. As far as music, I've loved music all my life, and I loved what goes on behind the curtain more than I do the front, because it's always been intriguing to me on what gets all of this magnificence in front of people on stage, and that's what I always wanted to be a part of. So that was, the quote unquote the wick to the flame as far as that when I got to college, because I already had that love.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. You've worked with artists for years and years. Who are some of the artists that you're working with now?
Currently, I'm working with Grammy-nominated trombonist Jeff Bradshaw. He was the music director for Jill Scott, tour of Mary J. Blige. He also was the music director for Jay-Z's American Gangster Tour. Also worked with a indie soul, which she's known sort of like the queen of indie soul. I've worked with her for 8 albums. Her name is Kanya Doss. Currently also working with an artist by the name of Zoe from Detroit, who is the music producer for the show Sherman Showcases on IFC network on cable. It's sort of like a musical parody show, pretty funny. Of course, I've worked with Dwele as far as being the VP of marketing and promotions for his company for the past 12 and a half, 13 years. So I've handled all of his booking, his radio promotions, and a lot of the other things to fill in the gaps. Dwele has won a Grammy and nominated for Grammys. 2 of his biggest hits records were with Kanye West, or actually 2 of Kanye West's records were 2 of his big records were with Dwele.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Maybe I need to redo the introduction so I say Dwele's name right next time.
Oh, no, you're saying it perfectly. You said it perfectly the first time. It's not easy. You said it perfectly the first time. Mm-hmm.
So, Myron, COVID's affecting everybody in different ways. And I imagine with being a concert promoter and having every concert in the world pretty much shut down, you've had to be light on your feet. How has that affected how you're working with your artists? And what are you doing to adapt? How are you promoting and working with artists when there's very little or no live performance?
Well, that's a good question. Unlimited Wealth Entertainment has always been a multimedia consulting company that specializes in music marketing and promotions, and concert production and brokering is only one piece of what we do. So there is always a revenue stream, given the fact, especially now that many of the artists are at home and many of them are looking at putting out records because much of their streaming money is contingent upon having releases come out. We're in a day and age now where we're renting records the same way that Netflix rents movies, and it's on streams and you're getting paid off the streams. So you have to keep a volume of material out there to have checks come in. So we are part of that process in making sure music gets out to the masses and to stations and whatnot. So we have a number of projects we continuously work on. What it has done, however, from the show in my unique relationship with City Winery and with the festival I mentioned in Cleveland and a number of other festivals, including the shows in Atlanta, is that we've had to reschedule over 35 to 40 dates with artists because of this not being able to get a permit to perform or put on a show outdoors. Right. Governor DeWine and whatnot, it will not extend permits for outdoor gatherings in large settings. And then even if we're doing well in Ohio here, because I have to travel to Georgia or to Illinois or Wisconsin because we were to put on shows at the Democratic National Convention this year in July. That's been pushed back to August, and then they won't give us a permit for our part, so we've been phased out. So we're basically booking artists now for 2021 and hope that these either antiviral medication that would happen to where people can get well a lot quicker, like it would be the common cold, or a vaccine would need to occur with a booster that people can get through this. And then people have to be willing to test once you get those things available. We do have a website called saveourstages.com, which we have a bill that's up that we've sent to our congressional leaders, Sherrod Brown, Rob Portman, Bob Latta, that there's a lot of venues, supper clubs that are going to be in trouble, and probably 90% of them may not make it back after this if they don't get the necessary support. Since I'm in a business that we have a lot of contracted labor, and I had 36 contracted employees last year that you have to pay out to. Many of us weren't eligible for PPP money. Right. Many musicians, God bless them, a lot of them aren't very savvy in understanding what their 1099s are about, and being able to take those to unemployment and get on unemployment to where they can at least get $600 a week through this pandemic in terms of insurance. So thus, what the artists are doing, they're doing a lot of virtual concerts, a lot of live concerts where they're pinning their Cash App, PayPal, Vimeo up, and people are paying as if they're seeing them live. There's quite a few artists that are doing well with that, but it's the artists. And many of them are performing acoustically in their homes, or they are performing on track, which leaves the musicians not making any money at all because there are many musicians that are playing behind them. Right. There's only a couple of people who are paying their musicians through this pandemic because they have their own paywall up and they ramped up their Wi-Fi to make this stuff happen. Namely, one is Erykah Badu, who was doing very well through this pandemic. And that was one of the concerts I was supposed to have on March 21st in Cleveland with her.
So she's paying her musicians?
Yeah, she's paying her musicians because and Variety Magazine had an interesting piece on this, and I'll send it to you. They, what she did was she got ahead of this when this pandemic happened. She ramped up her Wi-Fi. She got her engineers in, wired the place. She got a paywall and then negotiates rights fees with her label. Yeah. And then Facebook and Instagram, they can't kick her off.
Right.
Because with many of these virtual concerts you're seeing, they only last an hour, you get kicked off, or if you have content that is non-consenting, they can kick you off. Well, they now have to connect onto her portal now, and her band comes over. She temperature checks them, puts them all with masks, and the instruments are set up in her bedroom, so she just pretty much performs there. And she had 1% of her Instagram audience come in, which was 40,000 people. They paid $1. She made $40,000 from her bedroom. Then the next week she did it. Those same 40,000 came back. They paid $2. She made 80 grand.
Yeah.
Third week she did it. She charged them $3. Same 40,000 came back, and she made $120,000. So that's the testament to innovation, and her musicians are not unemployed as a result of it. Props to her.
Yeah.
And her ingenuity in being able to make this occur. But this is a learning curve for a lot of people, and I'm hearing projections that some of this won't come back full scale to possibly 2022.
Right.
If we don't have the right leadership that would come to play with this.
You know, I know that I miss getting out. I was going to go to a concert with my daughter. We had 2 concerts lined up this summer, and you know, we're not going to get to go out. And next year she's going to be 18, so she probably won't want to go with me anymore.
Yeah. You can forget that. My daughter used to help me out with these things, and the minute she became a teenager, and especially a college student, when she could go to Bonnaroo or go to Lollapalooza, my stuff became small scale to her at that point.
So but you know, I miss having activities. I miss being out with people, and being out in the community, and music, and what you're doing with your artists is a huge part of what we're all missing now that we're stuck at home and now that we're socially isolating. So I'd love to be able to support your efforts to keep these small businesses open, to keep these small venues available for people when the world comes back to a new normal.
The problem lies in that, again, for every state that's doing it right, a community that's doing it right, you have an instance like with D.L. Hughley, where the club was supposed to be at 175, which is 50% of their capacity. The night of the show, they have 400 people. They're shoulder to shoulder, no social distancing, no mask, and he passes out on stage with COVID, and the club is closed the rest of the year. Now, there's a club that's 2 doors down that I work with in a City Winery franchise from that, and then they're affected because they're in Nashville too. So then you have to walk back from phase 2 to phase 1 again, where, okay, we have 50 people now, and they're outdoors, and you then have to just sit somebody outdoors acoustically and perform. Yeah. So we have to understand as Americans, the old Spider-Man saying, with there comes great power, comes great responsibility. Yeah. We have to begin to exercise the responsibility a lot more. We have to understand that we don't get through this life on our own. We have to look at our fellow man. And you work from home. So we have to rethink these models, because not just in my industry, which will be the last one to come back full scale, but in Georgia, it was the first, and that was the mistake. That parlors and gyms was the first there, but it's the last to come back in a sensible society. And we have to really understand that in my profession, it's a mass gathering of strangers that's coming together all the time. It's not like a bubble with the NBA where they all know each other. Right. These are strangers that's coming together all the time, and we have to have responsibility for each other.
Well, and you've brought up a couple of good points today. One is that even though we've heard a tremendous amount about people losing their jobs, not everybody that's losing their jobs is getting the help they need. So there's people who had jobs who aren't eligible for unemployment. And people who are eligible, but only under the new rules, and are still having a hard time getting that unemployment. So, people like artists who don't have regular income, they're having a
Mhm.
hard time getting the assistance. I
Yep,
can
they're
tell you
playing by the gig.
there's a whole class of teachers who are part-time teachers in colleges, adjunct teachers, and they're not eligible at all, even under the new rules. So there are people that are losing their jobs that aren't getting any of the help yet.
Right.
And um, and more than that, you're talking about returning to work safely. So for you, that means having concerts where people can come and enjoy their lives again safely.
Yep.
For a lot of people, like grocery workers, they have to be at work, and we need employers to be creating safe and responsible workplaces.
National leadership. This election has got to be the most. I will never say it's the most important because we always hear it's the most important election in our lifetime. We have to be the most responsible voters in our lifetime in this election.
Yeah.
Because we know that everything is moving in reverse. You deal with the health crisis first, then you're going to deal with the economic crisis.
Yep.
Once you've done those two, then the political crisis will take care of itself.
Yeah.
But we have to begin to understand in most countries, we have a situation where healthcare is part of their gross domestic product, and we don't have that here. And we have to look at things very differently in how we approach this for my industry and everybody else's industry. Of any subsidy that you've worked hard for throughout your life can come back. I'm sure we dealt with these things during the Great Depression, during the Spanish flu, but we have to use those things as a case study and a learning experience as to what worked.
Yeah.
And I'm all for mitigation.
I will say that this whole crisis has put a new perspective on healthcare here in the U.S.
Yeah.
We've been very content to leave an entire class of people out of our healthcare system for a long time.
Yeah.
And because we're all in this together, we can see now that every single person who doesn't have coverage puts the whole community at risk. So it really is time for us to make sure that every American has access to health care.
And those are frontline workers who can't pull up on a tele job and work.
Right.
They, in Dr. Fauci's explanation to Congress a couple weeks ago, that's where the issue of race is most prevalent, because with African American culture, in particular, many communities that we live in and inhabit, many of us are frontline workers, and a lot of us don't have the access to having telejobs. And so we're going to go out and we're going to have to work and have to deal with this virus front on. And then we have to take it back to grandma or grandpa who are at home with us because of the locality issues. And then we have to repeat the process again the next day.
The economy really is.
You're ready, Joe.
The economy is the people that make up the economy, right?
Yeah.
The money is just a tool to help us understand the effort that people are putting in, and there's no way to restore the economy without making sure that people can be at work safe. There's no way to restore the economy unless we make sure that Americans make it through this crisis, so that on the other end of it, there's people to work and there's people to buy things. So the people have to come first. The economy we'll fix the economy after we make sure that everybody makes it through.
Exactly. And you couldn't have said it better. I'm ever thankful that you are running and you're showing the courage to run. What needs to happen besides voter education and voter turnout is things I want to stress. One is people need to get out and vote early. Two is I'm going to send over the link again for saveourstages.com for my industry. The most important thing is the information campaigns that are going out. Why should I say misinformation? And I think that people have to understand that we got to start paying attention to the sources and when the information is coming from.
It is important to make sure that you know where the information is coming from. and that
Yeah.
you're informing yourself as a voter. So
Yeah, and that's something that we can do. That's very easy, and it makes it we are more coherent when we go to vote. And by the way, please vote early so that you can eliminate all this confusion. Vote early, find out when early voting happens, and then go vote early at the Board of Elections, wherever your city is. Vote early. But that's the key component of our empowerment in taking back our control of the press to where we understand we can make good decisions and we know what to do because we got the right information.
excellent.